What's up, guys? This is Pedro from My Stuttering Life. On this podcast, we are going to talk about our challenges and our triumphs, and so that anyone around the world can truly know that you are not alone. So let's get started. It's just episode number 141, and my special guest is Mark Jones. Mark was a talented and a ferocious, a dual code rugby player who was tormented by a debilitating stammer. During a professional career that spanned 22 years, he was capped 15 times for Wales, 11 times for Wales RL, and once by Great Britain RL. One of the acknowledged bad boys of the sport, he was sent off 6 times and banned for over 33 weeks for violent conduct. His on-field brutality was a direct consequence of the off-field frustration and self-loathing caused by his stammer. Mark now acknowledges that he was internalizing an explosive hate that only playing a rugby could release. Mark had received counselling and constructive help rather than condemnation for his unacceptable behavior, and along with a program of speech therapy provided by his friends and mentors. All this has helped him to turn his life around. He quotes, "I have learned to control my stammer and have stopped my stammer controlling me. Anyone who has suffered from a stammer will know of the humiliation and low self-esteem it creates. Thankfully, I have now found a way to live my life free from its grip, and I hope that my honesty and my insight will help others experiencing the same torment." End quote. I am honored to have him as a guest with me on the My Stuttering Life podcast. Welcome, Mark Jones.
Hello, guys. Hi. I hope you're all well. Thank you. Lovely to be on here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is a huge honor. We have a lot of topics, to go over, and so let's get started. All right, sir?
Certainly, my friend. Thank you. The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
And so, do you remember when you first had began to stutter?
Yeah. On that now, please, can we start in the UK? I would rather use the word stammer than stutter. It's just a bit of a stigma that I've been raised with, and to me, it seems a little bit less rude. Yeah? So stammering, yeah?
I got you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think vaguely remember I was around 5 or 6 when it first reared its head. Yeah. And I've been asked this many times, yeah, and was it a traumatic experience that caused it or something like that? And I can vaguely remember in infant school, that's what we call it in the UK, yeah, wanting to ask the teacher to go to excuse myself in the loo. And I stood up, put my hand up, and I had a block. The world just stopped. The spotlight sort of came on, and it was as if all the class then were looking at me, staring, laughing, and the teacher, she didn't really help. She continued to say, "What do you want to say? What do you want to say? What do you want to say?" And I think, well, that was really the first time that I realized that I had an issue speaking under pressure then, yeah.
And so does it run in your family? Are there any other family members who stammer?
No, well done, Pedro, stammer, that's the word. No, there are not. My mother was a small, timid woman, but she didn't, there was no stammering. She was just, what can you say? It's a little bit of, she seemed to be afraid of her own shadow, but there was no real exhibit of stammering. No one in the family does, no.
And so have you ever had speech therapy? And if so, was it helpful?
Yes, I have. Well, we can go back to my youth. I must have been about 8 or 9 when I first had it, because my mother realized that I was having issues reading in class and speaking around the house and stuff. And yes, it started with me back in when I was about 8 or 9, yeah? And that was with the National Health Service in the UK, and there was no real research being done, and stammering was just thought of as just, something that you grew out of. So, yes, I did have speech therapy then, but that's all it was reading pages of a simple book. Janet and John went down the street. That was the first thing.
See, and sir, I also had that. I had speech therapy in 1975. And
well, that's roughly the same time as I was having it, 72 to 75, yeah, 73, yeah, same sort of thing.
Yes, and I had to read a book, and it just hit me as I was hearing you, the name of the book after all these years, Mark Jones, after all these years, the name of the book has now popped into my head. And it was a book about Dick and a Jane. And
Dick and Jane,
oh my,
yeah, they were the American equivalent of Janet and John, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. And I mean, I had to read out loud, and I mean, it was brutal. It was brutal because I was the only kid in my school. In my school, I was the only one who had to have speech therapy. And then, once a week, I was called out of school. And so, how they did it is, each of our rooms had a speaker. And so the counselor had hit a button and it went into the entire school.
No.
Pedro Pena report to the office of, for your speech, therapy. And I mean, let me tell you, Mark Jones, everything is stacked against us in school. And yet here we go. They're adding more and more.
Yeah, that's brutal. That is. That's so unfeeling and so, well, it's just, that's amazed me. That's just mad.
I mean, yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, it was, it was horrible. And so as we are talking about school, I would like to ask you this, Mr. Mark Jones, how was attending school with having a stammer?
School. Okay. School was as in all schools back in the 70s, like you say, there wasn't, bullying wasn't bullying. Bullying was everyday life. Yeah? You'd be teased, you'd be taunted, everything. Punched, beat. I was lucky, really. I'm 6'5" now, me, yeah? So I was one of the lucky ones. But it wasn't until I was early teens, really, that I started to fight back a little bit. Prior to that, I was a target for the big boys, the older boys. Yeah. Stuttering Lanky Jones series to call me, and that was it. That was what I was. That's what back then. That was what defined me. Yeah. But yeah. So school for me to start with was a little bit of a trial and a tribulation. But when I turned the corner, then the bullied became the bully. And I started to redress the balance a little bit,
See, and you had the height that helped you. I was short. I'm still short. But I mean, all through school, I was all by myself. And so, I would eat our lunches in the janitor's, a closet. And then, I would also eat behind the school. Because, I don't have to tell you, kids are mean and rough, and the bullies and the taunting and the mocking and the teasing and the punching and, all that. And so I would isolate to help protect me. And so,
Not on your own there, Pedro. I went through exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing.
See, and our backgrounds, I resonated because you wrote an awesome book. And so I want to tell everybody, all y'all have to get this book. All of y'all have to get this book because it is awesome. And so you talk about in your book having to read out loud. Woo, Mark Jones. That is traumatic. And so can you talk about that one experience that you had in school, as to where you had to talk out loud?
It was in an English lesson, yeah. It was just after lunchtime when I go. And this was when I must have been 15, and I was growing up a little bit then, yeah. And I was redressing the balance a little bit. And I was the pain in the classroom. I was trying to disguise my own inadequacies by being an awful person, really. But it was the reason I had was because my speech, I was so embarrassed about my speech that I had to, it was my only way of regaining a little bit of self-worth. Yeah. And it was in an English class, and I was at the back of the classroom acting the fool, and the teacher said, "Mark, stand up and read the paragraph." And it was as if I was main stage at the Super Bowl with all the spotlights and everything, whoosh, with a million eyes on me. I felt as if I had a basketball shoved in my mouth. My stomach was churning like a concrete mixer. I started to sweat, stood up, tensing up. It was just everything that my worst nightmare. Yeah, my worst nightmare. I don't know what the exact words were, but it was something like the lady in the pink dress. And it didn't come out fluently, as you can imagine, yeah? And the teacher said, "Pardon, what did you say?" And he mimicked me a little bit, so I thought. Perhaps he didn't. But that was what I made up in my own head. And the roof came off, to say the least. Yeah. So I exploded, table, books, and lashed out and ran out of the classroom.
See, and I mean, it also happened to me. I had to read out loud, and I mean, I don't have to tell you this. In school,
It makes me sweat.
I know.
Thinking about it.
It's all coming back. And so we each had a paragraph in which we had to read. And so, I knew the paragraph that I had to read. And I mean, it was a short one, but, to me, it may as well have, been a book. And so when it was, my turn, my heart, it was hurting, and my chest, and I was sweating, and every organ in my body was just tense. And so, I had to get up, and I mean, I tried, I repeated. And so all I heard from all of the other kids was, a laughter, and they were calling me a porky pig. And so at that point, yes. And so at that point, I did what you had done, although I did it by a factor of 100 million. Every time that I had to read out loud, I went to the loo. Every single time. In English class, history, Spanish. I mean, every single class where I had to read out loud, I would hold up my hand. And so, I kid you not, Mark Jones, I spent the majority of my school life in the loo. I would just hang out.
You got stuck there, isn't it? classic avoidance tactic. Yeah.
I mean, I would hang out, for at least half an hour, and then, I would head back in, and they had, passed me up. And I was okay with that, Mr. Mark Jones. I was okay with that because it happened one time, and that's all it took for Pedro. Because in my head, I was like, this will never happen again. It'll never happen again because I have to protect Pedro. And so,
Very Pedro,
yeah, I mean, for 12 years,
So
Mark
like,
Jones, for 12 years, I would hang out right in that loo for 12 years. It's crazy.
so you look back now and you think, God, then school life was archaic. That would never happen now. It would never happen. It's unbelievable the way it was.
Ooh.
But you're not on your own. That's what I thought, see, until now, really, that it was only me that was feeling and experiencing these things. And that's what I'm trying to get over in the book, really, is that, there's millions of us that are going through it. There's people have come up to me in the book launch dues that I've had, and the events, and pulled me arm, and there's boys that I've known from school, and they've said, I've stammered all my life, but no one knew because they hid in the wallpaper, and I've gone through all what you were gone through there, but to explain it all, to actually shove it out there, they've loved it. They really have, but it's just like, I found that coming out has been totally cathartic. I've had an epiphany. I'm a different fella. I'm really, my speech has changed. I'm a different guy now to what I was. And as to expand a little bit on the book, the name of the book is Fighting to Speak. And I found that I've fought with my stammer all of my life, and the feelings it's imposed on me, the anxiety, the self-loathing, the hatred, I've used that to further my sporting career, really. So on the one hand, it's been a massive hindrance because it's owned me. It's had an impact on every facet of my life, But on the other hand, it's given me the grit and the gravel in my guts that I needed to succeed in professional sport,
I mean, how awesome, sir. Woo. So here is a very important question, because everyone around the world, they want to hear your answer. And when I say everybody, Mark Jones, believe me, everybody wants to hear your answer, because I ask everyone on my podcast, and I mean, it is important for everyone to hear this. So here we go. Let's go, Mark Jones. Here is the question. So do you have any advice for parents, teachers, and speech therapists in regards to children who stammer?
Children, right. I was a child a long time ago, Pedro, and that's all I'm able to draw on now is the the horrible experiences I had that I wouldn't want anybody else then to go through. So really, for me, it's more of an anxiety thing, yeah? And it's nerves and anxiety fed my stammer. So, like we spoke about this, you've got to avoid the situations where you're putting the stammerer under stress, because they put themselves under enough stress as it is. You don't need to be adding, yeah? In fact, you need to be nurturing an environment where it's totally stress-free, totally relaxed. What helped me immensely was breathing and relaxation exercises, yeah? Massively. And you've got to remember, though, that it's not an instant fix. It's taken me 50 years to be confident enough yet to come on here and speak like this. And it's a constant retraining yourself, really. I went back to, I had speech therapy again then in my middle 30s to 40s. And the therapist then, she retrained me to speak, really, yeah. It started with the total stress-free environment, okay? I'd lie on the bed and I'd do exercises where I'd tense up for 5 seconds and relax for 5 seconds. And I'd go through all my body from my toes to my calves, to my quadriceps, to my butt, to my stomach, to my shoulders, relaxing on each time, breathing in and breathing out, just regulating my breathing, relearning how to live, really, because when you stammer, you employ a hell of a lot of coping mechanisms, and they are learned behavior. I had a terrible, terrible habit of saying "it's" before a word. So I'd say it's Mark, and it's I'm going down the street. I'm thinking, what? Those are learned behaviors, and you've got to unlearn those sort of things. So you need to totally regress in order to come forward again, okay? Then I started then speaking with actual letter sounds, yeah? On each breath, A, or Ah, B, K, going right back to my infancy. And this was when I was 40 years of age, you know. But it's, to go back to your original question, all I can add is you've got to de-stress that person, and you've got to get them feeling comfortable in an environment so they can control their breathing and they can start to speak using the speech therapy, the techniques. But it goes, initially you've got to go back to total anxiety relief and to totally stress-free environments.
See, and that is, I mean, you know, And that is great advice because I cannot tell you, how many times, from all my school teachers, or other speech, therapists, and they, um, you know, I hated to hear just slow down. It's like, no, I mean, it doesn't work for everybody. And, and for me, it did not work. It made it worse, and so, I loved how you had put it. Have us in a less, stressful environment. Help us out. And so, but that was a great answer, sir. And I thank you very much for that.
All the techniques that that you go through, the breathing, you can't just have a month's worth and then stop. It's a life-changing thing. You've got to change your life. You've got to change the way you live. You've got to become more self-aware. You've got to know and think and plan things that you don't be put in a stressful situation. Yeah. It's all about mindfulness of yourself. You've got to become really self-absorbed, and you've got to think about yourself first before anybody else. And well, that was the key for me anyway, yeah? It's my total pulling away from anything that stressed me out. Yeah? And then the constant breathing exercises, the constant let us out, the constant saying a word on a breath. If I'm in the car, I'm constantly doing it. I'm speaking to myself. They must think, if I'm driving, people must think that I'm having a conversation with somebody on the mobile phone. Well, I'm not. I'm just reinforcing the good habits that I've relearned now, not allowing the bad habits to re-enter my life. Yeah,
See,
it's constant.
And you, you hit it right on the nose. You have to practice, because any coach will tell you, if you want to get good at anything, on anything, you need to put in the hard work and practice and practice and practice. Because I do what you do also. In my SUV, I breathe. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. For at least half an hour, I do my breathing exercises, and when I get there, I feel good. I'm better.
It's a total lifestyle change. They talk about feel-good hormones, release the dopamine, yeah? You need to go for a walk. You need to go to the gym. You need to lead a healthy lifestyle, yeah? Which will then automatically lower the stress levels, which will then in turn allow you the time to breathe and to be in control. You've got to take control. Well, I found anyway, I don't know what. This is me speaking through my experience now. Yeah? I had to take control back, yeah, because my stammer owned me. As I said, it had a massive effect on every facet of my life. Yeah, work, sport, relationships, yeah, every part. You need to take control again. And you come first. We are all entitled to peace. Yeah? We all need to find a place where we get peace. Or perhaps not a place, but a situation, the place in life where we get peace. And that's what I've realized. And it's just, you've got to find that place. And it's had a marked effect on me. Yeah.
Sir, you are 100% correct. Yes. I mean, because, each of our journeys are different. However, we still have that common denominator that we have a stammer. And so what I had, I learned, later in life, I learned about meditation. I learned about, mindfulness and being in the present. And I mean, that has helped me tremendously. And so, yeah,
Brilliant. Fantastic.
It's awesome.
The people, as I've said, yeah, when you're going through it, you think it's only you. But whoever's watching this now, yeah, you're not on your own. Yeah? You're not on your own. Speak to somebody about this. Speak, and that's the biggest step that anybody can take, is to actually speak about it. But it's the first step, and it's the most powerful, the biggest step you can take to say, yeah, I stammer, and then you start to take control back then, not the stammer controlling you. You are in charge. Yeah? It's the self-acceptance, really. I spent 50 years running away from it, trying to hide it. And you can't. It's impossible. You cannot hide it. Everybody knows. And it's only you that thinks, I'm hiding it. You're not. So it's better to take ownership of it. That's the biggest bit of advice I'm able to give. Take ownership. Take the power back. And you are back in charge. And you own it, not it own you.
Ooh, I mean, that is awesome. Awesome, sir. Yes, I am 100% behind you, because for 35 years, it had complete control. I mean, it would tell me in my head, I would hear that, inner voice, and, later I gave him a name, Oscar the Grouch. And so he would tell me every day for 35 years, you cannot talk on the telephone. You cannot talk to people on the street. You cannot do job interviews. And so why are you doing it? And so, I mean, I heard that every day for 35 years until I woke up on my birthday, on my 40th. I woke up and told myself, I am done with this. I am going to live my life. I'm embraced, and I accepted that I just have a stutter. I know I'm awesome. I know, that I am 100% awesome, and I love me. I love me. And when I put that out there, I kid you not, Mark Jones, I kid you not, a new world had I'm opened up. And so I did what I wanted, to do, and there were days horrible, and there were days it was awesome. However, I knew that I am awesome and that I just have a stutter. It doesn't, define who I am. It is just what I have. And so what? So what? I'm going to live my life on my terms. On my terms.
Highly commendable, Pedro. I had rugby, if you don't, which is, it's a minority sport in the US. It's American football without pads and helmets. And I had that in my life, and I reached the professional level with that. And I used my stammer. Looking back now, when it was going on, I didn't have a clue. Yeah. But now I'm looking back in hindsight, I'm able to see that my stammer gave me the drive. I was a very angry person. I hated myself with my stammer. I was full of self-loathing. I hated every minute. Right? In my teens, I got arrested once or twice, and as young men do, they fight a little bit. So I've been arrested a few times, and then I made a decision that I wasn't about to spend my life in and out of Her Majesty's hotels. Then, so I channeled myself a little bit more. I channeled myself and I channeled my anger into my sport, whether I was training or whether I was playing. It was the anger and the self-loathing I felt was driving me to new heights. And it's all in the book, Pedro. I became a little bit of a bad boy on the rugby field, and I did a few things that I shouldn't have done that were way outside the parameters of the game, and I was way out of order doing these things. But that was my release. I'd go out there to do as much hurt to others as I could to try and flagellate myself of the pain that I was feeling. It's about my stammer. So I realised that as my career was reaching its end, and I hope I've moved on from that and I'm a different person. Yeah.
And so I want to talk about jobs real quick. Okay. So job wise, had you ever faced discrimination on the job, and how did you handle that?
Discrimination on a job, right? From the age of 17, I became a mechanical engineer. It's a mechanical apprenticeship I had, which is a bit of a paid internship then, yeah? I managed to get through that interview well, but it was after that then rugby sort of exploded in my life, and I became professional and things. But it was after my rugby that the problems with me really started. I couldn't interview for a job. Maybe it was my personal fears that rose my anxiety, so that put the blockers on my speech. Perhaps it was me. But when you cannot walk into an interview room and introduce yourself and say, hello, I'm Mark Jones. I'm here for the internship with a law firm. If you can't portray yourself and you can't communicate and sell yourself, you're stuck. And that's what I found. Yeah. I couldn't hold down a sales job. I couldn't hold down any job where I had to communicate with people. So I went back to laying bricks and landscaping gardens. So I was away from the need to communicate. It was just me and the bricks, or me and the hole. And that's where I found a little bit of peace. But money-wise, I haven't found a lot of money there. So that's my sort of slant on things work-wise. People, I don't think they automatically discriminate in the UK. But if you haven't got the skill set to do that job and there's communication involved in that job, you're automatically scrubbed off that list. Yeah, which is understandable, really. Yeah, but there's no help then. If you want to help yourself, it's all self-help. You've got to find you need to reach out yourself to go. No one has ever said to me, well, there is, that's a fib. It's in the book. There was a mate, well, not a mate of mine, but a coach of mine after one of the incidents said to me, you need help. We will help you. And that really turned my life around. That really did then, yeah. But in the world of work, no prospective employer would say, you haven't got the skill set. I like your other stuff, but your communication skills are good. There's a path to take to help you. It's all self-help. You've got to help yourself. And in the UK now, there are private speech therapists. But when I was young, it was only through the National Health. And you need to go to the doctor, and who would want to go to the doctor? Yeah, that's the thing. You don't, because what I found, I have mates now who stammer, but nobody wants you to know that they stammer. They'd rather hide in the wallpaper and go, no, I'm fine. No one comes out and says, "It's help. Can you help me out, please?" No, they don't, because of, I think, the stigma about stammering worldwide is just one big joke. Everybody, I have been laughed at continually for 50 years. When I go to speak, I've had a snigger, or I've been laughed at every day. Yeah, and that cuts deep. That does, really, it does, and it takes a lot of heart to come through that and say, yeah, because what I thought that if I didn't say a thing, no one would laugh at me. The stigma is huge. It's just a joke, but it's also, it runs so deep within the stammering, the community, people who stammer will not step forward. They won't. Even though the things that I'm saying will help them, or I think will help them, they won't step forward because they're afraid. But you've got to get past that fear. If you want to move forward, you've got to take control. You've got to move past that fear. You've got to get past that. It's the biggest step, and it's the step that you think will hurt the most, but it doesn't. Once you're past it, it's just a fear. It's a wall that you've built up yourself. You've got to get through that first step. You've got to come out of the wallpaper. You've got to, if you want to move forward with your life.
See, and I mean, you hit it right on the head. The whole reason why I do the podcast is, I want to let other people who have a stammer around the world, I want them to hear this, but because, I thought that I was the only one in the entire world who had a stammer until I was in my 20s. I met another person who had a stammer. And so what I had hoped for is in a podcast, as I am sharing, my journey and talking to amazing people like you, other people around the world who have a stammer, they can hear us and have it in their heads. I can do this. And
do it. Reach out to somebody, man. Speak to somebody.
Yes.
Take the power back, man. You can do it. You can.
Mm-hmm. And then also, as you were talking about the fear, what I had learned is everything that you want in life is on the other side of fear. You just have to go for it. In your head, you have to tell yourself, I'm going to do this. And so I have, done that. However, I failed. However, I learned every single time I failed. I learned from the experience, and I had applied it to the next one. And guess what happened? I did it. And so what I tell everybody, if you have a dream, you need to go after it.
My dream, was rugby, was playing for Wales. I'm from the South Wales mining valleys, and to play rugby for Wales it's just the utmost. It's the pinnacle. And like I said, that was my driving force, and I used my stammer to get out there. But I fought with my stammer for 50 years, mate, I fought with it, and then I realized that it was capitulating my stammer. It was making it worse. My anger, the first time, well, when I had speech therapy the second time, in my 30s, my 30s, 40s, the therapist made me record myself on the video camera and watch it back. I've never been so embarrassed in my life, right? But then I realized, oh no, you can do something about this. If that's the way you were looking, if that's what you were doing, you've got to change this now. You cannot go ahead like that. You've got to change. And so that gave me another bit of a spur to get on with things. And like you said, life is short, Pedro, isn't it? Yeah. It's not about the destination, mate. It's about the journey. And I know there was a guy in my town when I was younger who had the worst stammer you could ever imagine. He couldn't say a word. He couldn't say, he was blustering and bumping through, yeah. And like he was locked within himself. And part of my life, I've had that feeling of like not being able to get out. There was a time when I'd even stutter when I thought it was that bad with me. I was awful, yeah. But I carried on fighting. I knew that there was something better than what I was experiencing. And I had to move on. I had to take control of it. And I was lucky enough to be getting the highs of professional sport, the pats on the back and the kudos that I was getting from rugby was allowing me the endorphin release. I can't imagine how the guy in the town who never got that endorphin release felt. What a miserable, sad life he must have felt. And there must be thousands out there who are locked in. So my sort of slant on this, my ethics is that we all have a certain skill set that we are better at than the rest of it. I was better at rugby than I was at maths. Others are not. They're good engineers, they're mathematicians, they can play sport, they can swim, they can ping pong, they can play ping pong. Use what the gifts you innately have, use those, focus on those to get the feel-good moments, and then build on those feel-good moments, and that will then automatically fetch you out of where you were. Get that endorphin release, which will naturally make you feel good and less anxious. And that will have a marked effect on your speech. There's those little things like you said, if you feel a love for sewing and it makes you feel good, go for it. Invest all your time. Get those feel-good moments. And that will then spread into your life and expand you as a person.
Ooh, yes, sir. Awesome. Okay. I want to talk about what I call the activities of daily living. I call them the ADLs. I want to talk about the telephone, because, I know that's a huge hurdle for all of us. And then I also want to talk about how do you do, at a restaurant as you are trying to order food. And so let's first talk about how did you handle the telephone?
I I never could. I never could in my teens, my 20s, my 30s. I never could. I couldn't speak on the phone, or I've really, really struggled. Yeah. And it was only until, like I said, I got to 40 that I started to redress things and to become mindful of myself, that I started to be ready to function. In the book, it's written when I must have been about 9, 10, or like 11. The local shop. I couldn't ask for a packet of sweets in the shop. As I've got older, you get 18, you go into bars and restaurants. I couldn't ask for the drink at the bar. I'd have to point at it. It's just, it's an awful situation to be in, Pedro. It's awful. But like I've said, you can only relearn them. You've got to re-find yourself and relearn these things, and you've got to de-stress yourself. Millions of others are going through it, like you said, and I hope that we can enforce in them that they're not on their own. There are ways we can function. You can retake control. Yeah.
I mean, awesome, sir. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, now, so here is what I call a hot topic question. So I ask everybody on my podcast, and so all of the answers are split right down the middle, but I respect everyone's answers. So I want to ask you. So here we go. All right. So do you let others help you finish your your sentences?
No. Sorry for the blunt answer.
Oh, no, sir. No. It's all good, sir. It's all good. I thank you for that.
There's the psychological factor with that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I got you, sir. It's all good. It's all good. Okay, now, so have you ever encountered a situation as to where you were asked, what was your name? And then you have a block. However, you,
Numerous.
It isn't, a regular block. It's a long block. And then the mother, a person ask you, did you forget, your name? Has that ever happened to you, sir?
Numerous occasions, Pedro. Numerous. I've been, like I said, I've been in a myriad of different situations where I've been asked a question, I've had a block, and like I said, I've been laughed at every day. It's just a natural, it seems to be a natural response to seeing me, 6'5", stammering. It's just like, it's laughable to people. Yeah. And I have called a few people out about it as well. Yeah. But that's par for the course, see, Pedro, like you said. Sorry, mate, for cutting in. That's that's a bad habit I have because of the stammer. I do tend to cut across people. I'm awful. I get stuck on my mind's thinking about what I was asked a minute ago, and I've rehearsed what I'm going to say, and then it comes out there, and you may be saying something else. So I apologize for that.
No, sir. No. It's all good. I wanted to, tell you that it has happened my entire life. And the younger Pedro, I would get angry. I would get angry, Mark Jones. And I mean, I would just go off on them. And when I say go off, every, a curse word that you had ever imagined would just come out of my mouth. However, the older Pedro, what I do now is I take the time and I raise awareness and I educate them. I tell them, this is what I have, and this is what you're going to hear, and this is what you are going to see. Because when I have a block, my hands go all over the place, and I may close my eyes. So I do, whatever that I can do to help me get out of the block. And so now I take the time, because I mean, it still happens. It still happens, Mark Jones. I'm 53. It still happens. And so I take the time. And so I talk to him or her and I educate them. And so that way, the next time in which, they encounter a person who has a stammer, they are now, a better, equipped to be helpful and respectful and have integrity, and then a little bit of grace. And so, yeah, but, I mean, in the olden days, my whole body was just enraged. And I mean, I wanted to, lash out. So, yeah, the old Pedro, yeah.
Yes, Pedro, yes. The world has evolved a little bit in the acceptance of stammering. Because I think, mate, well, no, I don't think. It can be classed as a disability, mate. It is a disability, yeah. And when the people around you are uneducated, yeah, which was the case in the 70s and the 80s and whatever. Now, as you said, people do use a little bit more integrity, and people are more aware of the plight of a stammerer, and they don't automatically laugh and point the finger. The world's evolving into a better place on that aspect of life, definitely, Phil. Yeah.
Okay, now I heard you give an answer to the, to our next, a question. However, I want to hear the whole answer. Okay, so here we go. Do you consider stuttering, stammering as a disability?
Yes, mate. Yeah, it is, because it inhibits you, or it prevents you doing things that non-stammerers can do. Like, communication is massive, isn't it? Right? In the modern world, it has helped a little bit with the text and whatever, but the fundamental of the modern society is speaking, isn't it? Communication. And the way the world is changing now as well is the Western world anyway. It's moving away from the manufacturing base, isn't it, to the service base and to banking and stuff, where speaking needs to be is utmost. It's a prime skill. People now like yourself and whoever, they make a living off these podcasts and things. So how can you're an anomaly in this, you are, yeah, because you're a bit of the enigma. You're one out of thousands that are making the career out of speaking when you have a stammer. So I'm sure there are millions of other people who stammer who would love to be able to have the platform that you've got, but they just cannot physically do it. So in that point, yes, it is a disability, because it prevents us. It prevents you functioning normally in everyday life.
And so I want to thank you for that, sir. I want to thank you for that. And then here is a really cool aspect. I don't know if you know this, but I've had a handful of people who have a stammer who were on my podcast. And so after on being on my podcast, they have created their own podcast. And so
inspirational, mate. Fantastic.
I mean,
well done. Brilliant.
And each of them are doing so awesomely. They are wonderful. And so I am proud. And
you're a trailblazer, mate. You're leading the way. Fantastic.
And I am honored because how I have it in my head, we are a team. We are a team, and we help each other. We help, lift each other up. And so, and they are doing awesome. I'm proud of them. And so, yeah, it's just awesome. It's just awesome.
Brilliant, Pedro. Fantastic. You should be very proud, mate. Fantastic.
All right, sir. And so now I want to change it up. I want to talk about dating because, as you know, it's hard for everybody. However, if you have a stammer, it's a little bit more difficult. So I want to ask you, how did you navigate dating with having a stammer?
I'd wake up with, I am going to plug this again. It's all in the book, Pedro. It's all in the book. It's all written in there. Well, I'd wake up, yeah, And with what I looked at as a clean sheet, and I'd start rehearsing where I was going. I'd talk to myself, right, you're going to go get up, you're going to do this, you're going to have your breakfast, you're going to walk out the door, you're going to say hello to people, you're going to go to the shop, you're going to do this and do that. And then, yeah, great. And you go out, each day was like that. You'd wake up and you'd reinvent yourself. You'd walk out and this is the person I'm going to be today. And you'd walk out. As soon as you met somebody and you had to speak, you'd fall to bits again. But you couldn't run back inside the house. You had to go forward. So you'd get knocked down. Every time you spoke to somebody, you'd get knocked down. And you'd have to pick yourself up, to dust yourself off, and carry on. And looking back, having a stammer really has given me resilience. It really has. Because it would have been easy to run straight back inside and, like I've said in the book, to hide behind the skirting boards with the woodlice and the spiders, because that's where I wanted to go. But you can't. You've got to live your life. Like you said, you woke up when you were 40 on your birthday and said, no, I'm going. I've done that since the age of 8. I've got knocked down. No one was going to stop me achieving what I wanted to achieve. It would have been easy to, as I said, hide behind the false wall with the spiders and just waste away. But that wasn't going to happen to me. I had to keep going. And I'd get knocked down and I'd get back up and I'd go again. And every 10, 20 times a day. And you felt like that every time you stammer because you wanted to be normal. You wanted not to stammer. You wanted to be like everybody else in the street. And you had to keep picking yourself up. And you've got to keep picking yourself up. Got to keep moving forward. Because life is there. You've got to live your life. You have to. It's fantastic. Life is the best thing ever. You've got to love it. You've got to love it.
Ooh, I mean, 100%, sir. Yes, sir. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I thank you for that. Okay, now I want to talk about all of this new technology. You have Google Home, you have Alexa, and then you have Siri. Do you think all of this new technology is helpful or hurtful for people who have a stammer?
I never use it myself, mate. I think, and that answers your question, really. I think it can be, it's labour saving, yes, but I don't think it's not really compatible with a person who stammers. It could be used as a tool to practice on, as a speech therapy tool, I'd say, if you were to help you, to build your confidence with it, and because you're on your own in your house, you're unstressed, and it could be yes, it could be used as a speech therapy tool. It really could, and as an aid. But I'm only speaking through experience. It's just if I'm not alone then, or if I weren't alone, I'd find it a lot more I'd I'd rather avoid using it then if people could hear me speaking, because I'd be afraid, or I was afraid, that they'd hear me stammering. But to move on, yes, it really could be used as an interactive speech therapy tool. Yes, I think it could. Like,
See, and you had made a great point, a tool, because I ask everybody on my podcast, and half of all of their answers is that they had, used it as a tool to help them and practice. I'm like, that is awesome.
fantastic, great, yeah,
Yes, awesome.
wonderful.
Now, I have an issue with, the Google Home and the Alexa and the Siri, in that, they don't give you enough time, to respond. I mean, it is frustrating and irritating. However, I have some, a really good news. I have been a part of two collegiate, research. I'm in that. These two colleges here in the States, they are creating an algorithm to help people who have a stammer, to use the Google Home, and the Alexa, and then also Siri. And so that is truly awesome.
Well done again, mate. As I expressed before, you're trailblazer. You're leading the way. That's fantastic news, mate. That's really good.
Awesome, sir. Okay, now, I thank you for that. Okay, now, here is a big one for you. Okay, so what is a challenge in which you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
Challenge. Okay, when I finished playing rugby, I moved into coaching. Yeah, with a stammer. And I found that a little challenging. Yeah, and because I'm out on the field with 20 to 30 people, barking orders, doing this, explaining things, and it's non-stop chatter by myself. And I found that really, well, not hard, but I use my personality then to make light of a few things and to disguise things a little bit, yeah, So it's just how I've coped with my stammer really all of my life is I've grown my personality. I've become the bore, the bluff, the abrasive, yeah, and the one that's going over the top about things then, yeah? When pranks and jokes are played, I've been at the forefront of it. And that's in another way, like I said, that's to try and hide my own inadequacies, really. And to get the punch in before I'm punched. Before I'm laughed at, I'd rip somebody to pieces then, verbally, or give them a bit of stick professional sport, yeah, the sledging, the banter is brutal, far worse than any schoolyard. It's professional men, and nothing is sacred. Nothing is sacred. Yeah. So I was automatically a target to the players that I played with. They'd always rip the Mickey out of me and whatever. But I then found the way to get over that was to be far more abusive to them than they were to me. And I know that doesn't work in real life because professional sports, a bubble, it's a different thing. But I found that's how I coped with it, was being over the top and being the most abrasive, being the most rude. And I don't condone my actions either, no. But it's just another coping mechanism that I had. Yeah.
I thank you for that. Okay, now here is a deep question. So I ask everybody, all of the answers are split right down the middle, but I respect everyone's answers. So here we go. So do you think that it's okay to stammer, or is it important to keep chasing the fluency gods?
Right. Okay. Like I've said, I've run away and I've tried to hide my stammer for 50 years. Yeah. So initially I'd say you have to keep chasing the fluency gods. Right? That was my mindset. That definitely was my mindset because I was embarrassed and I was ashamed. Now, I've taken the exact opposite route. I've come out and I've said, yes, I stammer, this is me. And what I was searching for and what I was hiding, yeah, what I was searching for when I was trying to hide it, I feel as if I've achieved, but by the total opposite route. I could never speak like this up until 8, 7, 5 years ago. I couldn't. I had no chance. Now, the book has really, really helped me. Like I said, the coming out, the speaking about it. Whereas, as I've said, I tried to hide it for 50 years, and that's all it did was fester and get worse and worse and worse. And I took another route. I held my hands up in the air and said yes. And I accepted myself. And that's what has really turned it for me. Like I explained, it's as if I've had an epiphany. Yeah.
I thank you for that, sir. And so we've had the exact same, a journey. I mean, it is a carbon copy. And so what I hear, we have a lot of people in our our community, they don't share that. However, here's what I tell everybody. you have your own, a journey. If you want to go and get a device to have in your ear, if you want to go and take, a medication or whatever, the, a vitamin or what, you do you. You do you. If that is the journey in which, you want, I respect that. Because you have your own, a journey to follow. I have mine, and you have yours. And so what I tell everybody, you have to do what you want to do. And so, I respect everyone's, a journey. Speaking for only Pedro, I have your journey. When I was, younger, I wanted, to speak like everybody else. However, now that I'm older, I have embraced it. I just have a stammer. And that's it. I know I'm awesome. I can do this and I can do that. And I can talk on the phone now because I practice. For half a year, Mark Jones, for half a year, I practiced rehearsing, calling on a telephone in my bedroom every day for half a year. I practiced. And so after that half year, I did not have any more anxiety or fear. It became, a boring after half a year. And so in my office, when I had to answer the telephone, I picked it up. Hi, good morning. I'm Pedro Pena. How may I help you? But I practiced for half a year, Mark Jones. Every single day for half a year, I practiced. And look what I did. Look what I did.
Brilliant, mate. Yeah. Fantastic. You've just got, like, as we've expressed, life is a journey, yeah? It's short, but it's not about the destination. It's about the journey, yeah? Yeah. And what suits you may not suit me. Like they say, one man's meat is another man's poison. Yeah? But we're all entitled to peace.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
It's a right that every person has. And how you find that peace is entirely your journey. Yeah? If
yes, sir,
anything I've said can help one person, I'll be ecstatic. Because like yourself, you've done a lot of things. You've said through things that have helped out other people. And that's fantastic. That's all we can do is pass on what's helped us. It may not help somebody else, but it could help somebody else. So we've got to, I feel now I'm empowered and I feel obligated to me really to pass on my experiences if it can help anybody.
See, and I mean, and that is why we are doing what we are doing. And it's just awesome. It's just awesome. Okay, now, so you had, touched on this. However, I want the whole answer because it is going to be powerful. So here we go. So what has your stammer taught you?
What has my stammer taught me? Well, there's hundreds and hundreds of things. As I expressed, it's given me resilience. It really has. given me the drive that I needed to succeed in the professional sport. On the negatives, this made me very, very angry. Yeah, and on occasions violent, but we don't want to go there. But it's made me very self-aware now, and it's made me look at life in a different way. When you're younger, you're running about, you're trying to do things, do this, do that, do that, do that, yeah. You've got to sit back a little bit and take time for yourself. Become mindful about yourself, about what stresses you out, and then you can avoid those situations and you can take steps to move on in life. No one deserves to be trapped or to be inhibited in doing anything they want to do. But don't be a victim. Don't play the victim. Because for one, it's the least attractive thing in the world. And two, you will rot from the inside. Don't be a victim. If you want to do something, go out there, take steps, be enthusiastic and be energetic towards your goal, and you will achieve that goal. Nothing can stop you doing whatever you want if you apply yourself correctly to it. But don't play the victim, because you may as well not be it.
Thank you, sir, for that. Okay, so here is a deeper question. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
To my younger self? Okay. My father always said to me, you regret the things you haven't done, not the things you've done. So, and how we've spoken about how my stammer has driven me in a certain direction, and it's enabled me to succeed in the field that I chose. The only thing that I would say to myself is, keep your hands in your pockets. Because all the other things have happened for a reason. And it's enabled me to succeed. So that's all I'd say is, Mark, you better keep your hands in your pockets. Nothing else.
Thank you, sir, for that. So here is our last question, and it's a big one. So hold on. Okay, so let me hold it up. So here we go. So if you had the opportunity to give insight about stammering on the world stage, what message would you convey?
I think I already have, yeah. I think that's all I'd say is, don't play a victim. Don't be a victim. You can't allow your stammer to own you. You need to take control. You need to take the power back. You need to take steps to move towards leading an eventful and an achieving and a fulfilled life. It's up to you in the end. You can do whatever you want to do, yeah? If you decide to take control of it. and you cannot let your stammer own you. You need to own your stammer. And by whatever means you go through speech therapy, like myself, what helped me, as I've said, is the breathing techniques, relaxation, and anti-anxiety drills, all that sort of stuff has put me in a place now where I never was in the past, and that's all I'm able to say is, you've got to move on. Don't let it own you. You need to own it.
Ooh, sir. I mean, that is a great message. A great message. Okay, now I want to talk about your awesome book. It is titled a fu- a fu- a fu- a fu- Okay, it is titled "A Fighting to Speak," a rugby, a rage, and redemption. All right. So what inspired you to write this amazing book?
As I've said, it was. I've been very lucky to have rugby in my life. It's allowed me to achieve things that I would never have achieved in Civvy Street. I've had highs and I've had lows, but I've had far, far more highs and far larger endorphin releases through rugby than I could ever have had in everyday life. And the book is my story from a kid in a mining town in Wales. Yeah. How a stammer shaped me and drove me on, and it has enabled me to reach the heights in sport that I only dreamed of. And it's now the redemption is me now finding peace and a new person after the book's written. And it's how I've changed things in my mentality and my approach towards things. Thank you, Pedro. Fighting to Speak, Rugby, Rage and Redemption.
So I encourage everybody. I will have the hyperlinks in the podcast, notes. I encourage everybody, go and get this book. And so now, Mark, I have to tell you, I am an American, and so I Googled, a bunch of terms in which you had used, in your book. As an American, I, had not heard, a couple of the words in which you had, in your book. And so I Googled them. And so I learned all about the sport of rugby. And then you had also, okay, how shall I put this? You had some colorful, words in which I had not heard of. However, I Googled all of those. And so I just...
You managed to find them, yeah? It's... The book is written in the dialect of South Wales, yeah?
Oh, yes.
If worldwide, you go to Pennsylvania, and I expect in America they've got words there that I wouldn't know. You go to New York, they've got stuff. It's exactly the same the world over. It's but they mean the same things. The people go through the same things wherever you're from, whether you're from Australia, from Russia, China, the UK, America. They all go through the same things. Human beings are a universal species, aren't they? And we feel the same feelings and we do the same things. So it's just a word is just a more colourful way of explaining a certain thing in a different dialect.
Oh, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then also, I want to take the time and tell you congratulations, on your, on your sport achievements. I mean, it's.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Yeah, it was a few years ago now, man. I've been retired around 20 years now, so it's been a few years yet since then. So, but memories live on. It's just like that the Bruce Springsteen song, "Glory Days." I relive them often. Yeah, that's now. That's now.
See, and then also, I loved how you had the pictures in here. I mean, just awesome of your
growing up
sports. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Pedro.
And
thank you so much, mate.
Oh, sir. I mean, this is a huge honor. So I want to tell everybody, okay, if you are hearing this on a podcast or watching it on YouTube, I want for everyone to get this book because you Mark Jones, you are an inspiration. You are an inspiration. And so I want to thank you because you have written an awesome book, and it is the word that comes to mind is honest, and then also courageous.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you. That means so much. It means so much. I thought I couldn't. I had to tell it, warts and all, mate, the way it was. The way it is. I haven't shied away from my own personal feelings, and it's been. You can say that it's a roller coaster. I've explained in there. Writing the book has raked over memories that I'd thrown away, that I didn't want back. And it's taken me to the highs of the top of the tallest mountain, to the depths of the deepest lake, mate. I've been pulled, battered, pushed around mentally by recalling the issues and the trauma that I've been through in the book. Been awful. But like I said, the trauma that I felt through my stammer, I've meted out. And I'm not proud of that at all, that I've caused trauma to others, and that's the thing that I'm seeking redemption, mate. That's why I want to redress the balance and to beg for forgiveness, really, and to not excuse my actions, but to try and explain them. Why I've been the way I've been.
And so I want to thank you, Mark Jones, for for spending your time to talk with me. This has been a huge honor, and I believe in that there is healing in sharing. And so, I want to tell you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, I've had the best time talking to you, sir. It has been a huge honor and a privilege. And so, I wanted to, tell you, thank you, thank you, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Federal. The pleasure's been all mine, mate. I'm the one that's had the privilege, mate, of having the platform, of being able to meet you, and to have had the chance then to convey some of my thoughts and my experiences on a platform such as this. On an ending now, yeah. Please, if you don't mind, I'd like to reach out to anybody who is in the situation. I'd reach out to parents of the children who stammer. I'm involved with a group that I know you know is Belfast Stammer Support. Yeah, I have a couple of mates there who we are running a helpline or the support line. Yeah, the email address is going to be, it's Mark Jones, care of Belfast Stammer Support at gmail.com. If anybody feels the need or feels the want to reach out or to look for help and support, email Belfast Stammer Support, and they will pass on to me any of the applicable correspondence, and I'll then endeavour to answer immediately to anybody, any questions, or just to give a little bit of a shoulder to anybody that feels the need.
Oh, sir, how cool. How awesome. So I will have all of those hyperlinks in the podcast, notes. And so if anybody, which I know I am in 141 countries on 6 continents. How cool is that?
Fantastic.
I'm blessed. And so if anybody all over the world, if you want to get in contact, I will have all of the hyperlinks in the podcast, notes. And then also, I want to close on this. So I have a buddy, or what y'all call a mate. His name is Jay Wills. It's a Wils. And so
Jay Wills, yeah.
And so he knows you and you know him. And so he was the one who told me that I have to have you on my podcast. And so I want to tell you, Jay Wills, I want to thank you, because this book has had a huge impact on me, and I am eternally grateful. And so I want to thank you, Jay Wills. And then I want to thank you, especially, Mark Jones. I've had the best a conversation.
Thank you, Pedro. Your words are very, very heartfelt, mate, and it's an emotional ride. Having a stammer, mate, right? As you know, it can be a very emotional thing, but it can be very lonely and a very isolating thing, yeah? To the people there, yeah, you're not on your own. Please reach out. I didn't know you, Pedro, before the introduction from Jamie. Yeah? And I've met you now, fantastic guy. The work you're doing is wonderful. And if I can reach 1% of the people that you are, I'll be a very, very proud gentleman. You're doing a fantastic job, Pedro. Keep on trucking, mate. Keep doing what you're doing. Fantastic work. Loving it.
Thank you, sir. So, whew. Okay.
Thank you.
And so I hope you have a great day. Take care and be well and stay safe.
Thank you, Pedro. Lovely. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
If you like this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again.